Hey, Zips fans, welcome back into ZipsCast, episode number 2. We've got Nate Stewart, Maverick Wolfley, Alexis Adlita, Spencer German from the Zips Digital Network, and our guest today from softball team, Jesse Holzman. Everybody, welcome to the show. I'm going to turn it over to Spencer as he's going to get today's started. Go ahead, Spencer.
How's everybody doing, guys? I know it's been a couple of days since we last talked. Just how's everybody holding up? I know there's been some thunderstorms coming through the area, so how's everybody doing over the last couple of days?
Pretty good. I didn't get hit or anything in West Virginia. It was raining a little bit, but besides that, it was pretty clear from the storms, at least.
I think in Cincinnati we got all of the, backlash of what Akron did. It traveled south and it hit us pretty hard last night. So I've had some power outages and all that kind of stuff, but other than that, been pretty good.
It's been raining here, but it hasn't been too bad. Just like a lot of wind and broken trees and stuff like that.
Jesse, how about you?
In Medina, a tornado actually kind of hit down. We were the first city, I think, that got hit and then it traveled to Akron. So we didn't have power until like 4 p.m. yesterday. We didn't have Wi-Fi basically all day. There's a lot of tree damage and some damage. Kenzie. We just had a lot of damage just in the city. It could be worse, but yeah.
All right, well, we'll try to get right into things. Again, we're hoping to use this podcast as a platform to introduce you guys, our student athletes, get to know you guys a little bit more, and bring in somebody different each episode. So as we mentioned, as she just sort of finished up talking there, Jesse Holzman, our guest for today's episode. Jesse, I'll let you sort of take the reins here for a second. Just introduce us to who you are, what sport you play at Akron, and just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll all have some questions for you as we get to know a little bit more about you.
So this is technically my senior year. I play softball. I played first base this season. With our season being canceled and whatnot, we have that eligibility to go for the 5th year, which I'm planning on taking. So I'm just trying to figure out the everything else on what's going on with scholarships and things from our coaches. So I'm just waiting on that. But it's been fun being at Akron so far.
That's a nice segue probably into the question that I was going to ask you later. But since you already sort of hit on it, I'll just start with it. That 5th year, that extra year of eligibility that the NCAA is kind of granting, just as you're sort of figuring out those logistical aspects of that, what is that like? And what did it mean to you to get that? And what was the mindset, the thought process behind whether or not you wanted to take advantage of that or not?
Just having that extra year is big for us. Like, even if you want it or not, like, I'm not sure. I think a good amount of people that are seniors on my team right now are going to end up taking it just because they want to finish out their 5th year. And like, I know I want like a senior night and be recognized and have all that stuff just with all the work that I've done in the past like 10, 15 years. So having that extra year is really nice for us.
What's like the biggest challenge with that? Like you sort of said, you have to figure out how certain things are working and scholarships and all that. What are maybe some of the hurdles? Because again, that's kind of been the topic of conversation as they granted this to people, is how are they going to logistically make it work? So what have you maybe already run into in that regard, trying to go through the process of making sure everything's aligned for that extra year?
There's a lot like unknown, even with a lot of things in the government, everything on what's going on. We're just kind of waiting to see like what happens. So it's just regardless or not, with a lot of things that are going to go on, my plan is to do my 5th year. So it's just getting everything set in stone and figuring everything out. Like I had to rush and go and find a house I wanted to buy, like to rent for next year already. So it was just a lot of last minute kind of things that I wasn't really planning on doing.
Let's kind of go back to the beginning for you. Just how did you start playing softball? What got you interested in softball? Why is that the sport that really you cling to and obviously ended up wanting to play as you went through your life and into college and into your career?
I grew up in like a really big athletic family. On my dad's side, we had my two of my aunts played D1 basketball. So I was already like, they both played 3 sports in high school. So I was already kind of brought into an athletic family. So growing up, I played volleyball, basketball, and softball. And I thought I wanted to play basketball in college until I got into high school and I fell in love more with softball. So I think I started probably at like my T-ball age, so that probably around like 4 or 5. So it's just my love for the game has grown since then.
And then what led you ultimately? Obviously, I know you're in Ohio. You're native to Ohio, so that obviously plays into it a little bit. But just why did you end up choosing Akron? What about it just made you want to go there to play in college?
Just the location honestly helped a lot since I'm 30 minutes. So my dad, my grandparents, and some of my aunts and uncles would come and watch me play, and it was a lot like more local than I honestly really expected in the beginning, since I thought I wanted to get really far away from home, but it ended up being really nice, especially now that like I've been here for 4 years. I can go home and have dinner with my dad if I really wanted to, and it's really nice just being that local.
All right, I think I've talked enough for now. I'll open it up to your fellow athletic peers to ask you a couple questions, get to know you a little bit more. So, guys, I'll let you. Whoever wants to start, we don't necessarily have to go in a specific order, but I'll let you guys sort of take the floor here.
What was your initial reaction when you found out that before you found out about the extra year of eligibility, when you found out your season was canceled?
It was we honestly, like, we were in practice. We just lifted. Our coach told us like, oh, like we're gonna have like a dinner later, like everyone together as a team until we possibly find out what's gonna go on. So my coach came over, all the players came over, and then like we all found out like through online, and I think someone probably called her. We found out from the NCAA, so everyone was just stunned, and like that's never something that you would even expect. Like I don't think anyone expected like the coronavirus to hit this hard to anything on everyday life.
My question was, I know this all was obviously unexpected, as you said, and I think the biggest part for seniors looking forward is what they're going to do post undergrad. So did you have plans post undergrad to what you wanted to do, and did those plans have to change since you are planning on taking that 5th year?
I graduated in December, so I already started my master's. So I was planning on finishing here anyways. My plan before I got the 5th year was to GA through athletics and be with Ann. So that's the only thing that's changing. I was still going to be in Akron, or go to school at Akron, but that's the only thing that's changed since we found out.
Okay. So with all this happening, like, what are some of your like daily activities since you're kind of like stuck in the house and quarantined with the rest of us?
I've been babysitting my niece, so I've been doing that a little bit. We have some cardio equipment, so I've been going on the bike, elliptical, taking my dogs for like a 3 to 4 mile walk, usually every day if the weather is gonna warm up. I've been doing that, but just been hanging out with my dad, my stepmom, my niece, my sister, and my dogs.
You mentioned a few things there, like working out at home, but what ways are you trying to stay in shape? I know we've already talked to Nate, Maverick, and Alexis about this a little bit. I know Nate sort of alluded to trying to find obscure things around the house just to pick up to do like weightlifting type stuff. But what are some of the unique ways maybe you're trying to train a little bit to stay in shape? Obviously for you, it's probably a little weird because you'd be in season right now doing a lot of this stuff anyway. So how are you trying to do that? Is there anything that maybe has come from, your team or the trainers to try to keep you in shape? How have you sort of handled that?
I'm a little limited to what I've been doing exercise wise since I hurt my back like 2 weeks into actual gameplay. So I ended up slipping a disc in my back. So I'm still trying to recover from that. So I've just been doing more cardio and not as much, a lot, just get my heart rate up and get sweating. So I haven't really been lifting weird things per se, but just doing more cardio.
All right, we'll try to move on to sort of our second segment here. We try to sort of treat the second segment as more of a fun thing. So the topic I came up with for today, which I thought would be kind of cool to get all your guys' input on and get an answer from each of you, is if you had to be quarantined with one of your teammates for 14 days, who would you pick and why? So I'll let whoever wants to go first and start it off, but you got to figure out who of your teammates you'd want to be quarantined with. Nate and Mav might have I don't want to make anybody mad at each other if they don't pick each other here. But
How does it have to be one?
I'll say if you want to go, you can go to 2.
2.
Max.
Oh,
It's a little harder for you guys because you guys have a bigger team, obviously. So
yeah, okay. So for me, it's a solid 3 guys. But out of the two of those 3 guys, I don't know. I'm gonna go Dre Williams, and now I'm between Mike Matheson and Julian Hicks. I'll wait until after the finish. I have to think about it.
all right, we'll let someone else go and you can think about it. So just again, if you had to be quarantined with one, or I'll give you 2 teammates for 14 days, who would you pick? And then give us like an explanation why that person.
For me, for the 2 guys, I would probably pick one of them is Austin Gillespie. He plays fullback on our team. He's not a very vocal guy or anything, but his sense of humor is just very different than other guys. He'll come up to you and you'll think he's very serious about something. Like sometimes when I first get in there in the morning, he'll come over and say something to me. And when I first was getting to know him, I thought he was like dead serious and he would freak me out about his stuff. But then I realized he's got a really dry sense of humor. So I just love hanging out with him. I don't know. That's tough. I don't want to hurt any feelings. My second one, if I had to choose, probably be another guy in my position room would be Zach Leininger. He just got here. He's from Kansas. He's pretty cool. He likes to do a lot of the same things I do. I like being outside and doing things, stuff like that. So I probably have to go with him.
I think for me, I would probably pick Tegan Ochaya and Emily Wygand, just because for Tegan, we're a lot, our majors are basically the same, so we have a lot of the same classwork. So I think from that standpoint, it'd be kind of nice to have someone to do homework with and all that stuff. And I just know she would keep me easily entertained because whenever her and I are together, we just laugh at the most random stuff. And then with Emily, we are roommates and have been roommates since freshman year. So I kind of think that we just gel well together. But I mean, we haven't killed each other after being with each other all the time after 3 years. So I think it would be fine. So.
I would have to go with Mackie Mitchner. I've just been really close with her since she got on campus last year. She's a senior with me, so we've been going through some of the same stuff. Even I'm not her roommate or anything, but she doesn't have a car. She's from California, so I'll come pick her up and we'll hang out all the time. We gel really well together too. Like she's a pretty funny person, I would say. But yeah, she's the person that I would say I would pick.
Nate, did you come to a consensus yet?
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Dre, and I'm gonna go with Mike. Okay. I will say with Dre and Mike, well, with all 3 of us, we're always gonna laugh. Even with Jew, we're always gonna laugh. I got Dre because Dre is like, I don't know, I've been cool with Dre since I met him. And Mike, I just met him, but like Mike's a cool guy. He's funny. He has that dry humor too, but at times like it gets weird sometimes. But it's all fun and games still. So, but yeah, those are my 2 guys.
So my question with this is, all of you guys have talked about like the humor and the sense of humor, and you've been together, laughed and jokingly. But remember, you're 14 days where you barely can go outside. So who's your cook? Who's your chef in the kitchen? You guys got chores. Who's doing what in the household?
I can cook. So I don't know how much of them clean though. I don't know. Nah, they're pretty clean guys for sure.
Honestly though, like if it's only 2 weeks, like you could probably get away with some minimal cleaning, like just the basics for a couple weeks. If it was like a month, you might be pushing it, but 2 weeks, I think you might be okay.
I like cleanliness though. I don't really like clutter and dirty stuff. So that's big. It's big that Chad brought that up for sure.
That might be a game changer for me as well, because I know how Tegan is, and her room is always not the cleanest, but I mean, I think I could put up with her for 2 weeks. Love the girl to death, but she's kind of a mess sometimes.
I would say, you can go, Mav.
Okay. For me, I guess, I mean, I like to cook, but Austin always sends me, he'd Snapchat me and stuff. He's always making something. It looks super nice, like he ordered it from a restaurant or something. So I guess he seems like he might be a better cook than me. But I mean, I like to be clean. So eventually, if it did got dirty, I'd probably just end up doing it, cleaning it myself. But like you said, for 2 weeks, I think we can make it. So probably ordering a lot of takeout anyways. So.
I would say I'd probably do a lot of the cooking. I know she eats cereal a lot, so she just goes with some of the easy stuff. But cleaning wise, I think it would probably be more of a mix. Like I would help and then she would help too. So I think we'd get along for 2 weeks perfectly fine.
Yeah, delegating is the key there. We'll segue a little bit still on this subject a little bit, but into another question. Obviously, the one aspect you guys are really missing from not being on campus around each other, and it sort of, again, references, being bonding with each other's teammates or, certain people that you just have connected with more over time. But how are you continuing to sort of build that team chemistry, build that morale while you guys are away, at home, without being there on a daily basis? Because I know, like, Chad and I see, like, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes where you guys are, doing different things together, whether it's you just plan something on your own, or even if your coach has put together some sort of event, whether it be like service or, you're on a road trip and you all go to dinner or something like that. So how are you sort of maintaining that just while given the situation with your teammates?
I think really one of the only ways we could is by like just group chats and FaceTimes and stuff like that, using technology for what it is. And I know that we've talked about it before, but our coaches having like meetings with us and stuff like that to go over film and because right now, like we would be in spring ball right now, so they take the time to go like an hour and 15 minutes with us on Zoom and go over plays, watch film, stuff like that. And players amongst themselves, we text each other every day, just like we always do. It's just we don't get to see each other at practice or stuff like that.
I guess basically the same thing what Nate said. We just been on Zoom and stuff, like just texting each other, or I mean, pretty much it's just Zoom. It's kind of hard with a football team because you can't really have a Zoom meeting with 120 guys. So that wouldn't be very productive. And the one thing that, I mean, like just texting each other and on Zoom, but Coach Arth, all the coaches will send us texts every day about different stuff. So it's been kind of nice to still somewhat keep in contact with them. We still get to not hear them, but see what they want to say to us. So it's been nice.
Yeah, I think for us, we are obviously a smaller team than football. There's typically only like 15 of us, so we can all do Zoom meetings at the same time. And we don't really have like specific position groups, so we all normally go all together. But I think one of the main things that we do in order to stay accountable would be we all send a picture each week of doing schoolwork or working out, just in our Snapchat group chat that just lets people know what we're doing and that we're keeping each other accountable. And if you don't send a picture, like someone's probably gonna be like, hey, like where's your picture? So it's kind of just like a little fun thing we do that's not really set in stone or too strict or anything, but that's just something that we like to do in order to keep each other accountable.
For us, like I FaceTimed a lot of my teammates already, and we have a group meet, like a team conversation, team group chat, whatever. So we stay in contact with that. We have a separate group chat with like our strength coach. He sent us like a couple of workouts that we can do like daily. And then I know next week we're gonna have a Zoom meeting with the coaches since they've been crazy trying to figure out what's going on. So we're going from there on individual meetings, and then I think a team meeting as well.
I guess the real question, has anybody taken advantage of TikTok?
No, not at all.
Yes, actually, I have it times. We actually made a giant group TikTok, and me and Jesse were both in it, and it was kind of to the Full House theme song, and it was just everybody hitting their like sport balls to the other person, and then it was kind of like the intro where you like don't see the camera and then you wave. So that was in the MAC contest.
I know those are going around. I know like women's basketball is doing a bunch of different ones. So yeah, I just figured I'd ask. I know that's the thing right now. So, Chad, you had something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Jesse another question real quick. It goes all the way back to the 5th year eligibility. Like, do you find that now that you have a second year or second kind of training with ultimately a new coach in Megan, that's going to benefit you guys for the spring of 2021?
Good question.
Yeah, I like once I first started to get to know like Coach P and the whole coaching staff, I was like really sad that I only got 1 year instead of multiple years to like get to learn what they want and even become a better player in person. So I'm glad I get to have them for an extra year and learn more from them.
All right, I think that's a good place to transition sort of to our last segment. This one sort of on an individual level, I want to ask each of you guys just staying optimistic. I know there's still a lot up in the air about what's going to happen with fall sports moving forward. I would assume, obviously, Jesse, there's pretty good optimism that by this time next year, softball will be off and running, so that's good. But, again, trying to keep optimistic, keep a positive light on things, just as you sort of look ahead and given that things have sort of been derailed a little bit in the spring, whether it be training or your actual season, just what are some of the individual goals that you guys already have set for yourselves going into now that next athletic season, whether it be in the fall or spring or whatever, as you guys just sort of have to get re-geared back up for that without maybe the same structure you're used to?
Well, for me, I'm recovering from surgery that's had me out for about like 6 months so far. But I think for me, being like, I guess probably one of the leaders of the football team, I kind of want to get us to a point where we're just like, back to being a winning team again, back to the normality of going through a season and not, like, not to say that we were dreading every weekend, but at the same time, like being, having that same optimism about the season and going into every game, every practice and stuff like that, just finding the joy back of playing football again and winning football games.
Kind of going off what Nate said, big thing is, to get back to winning and everything. I feel like being away from each other and realizing that, not taking this up, the 4 or 5 years that we get to do this, not taking it for granted because not everybody's going to be able to play after these 4 or 5 years. So I think it'll make us, I think it'll give us more motivation when we get back because we'll know that, like anything could happen at any moment. Like Jessie or someone said earlier, she wasn't expecting her last season to be taken away so quickly. So I feel like it'll help us. Everybody right now, from what I've seen, looks like they're working out and being pretty motivated. So I feel like when we get back, there'll be a lot more motivation and optimism about the upcoming season and make us want to work harder. So
I think for volleyball, our coach told us from the beginning that our main goal was to leave the program like better than we came in. So I think that's an overall long-term goal that I've had ever since I came to Akron is we wanted to leave the program better than we started with it. So I know we didn't have the best couple of seasons when I first got here, but last season was definitely a huge step in the right direction for us. And it kind of gave us a lot of confidence within the program and showed us kind of what we were capable of. So I think using that and as well as, like Jessie said, like she wasn't expecting any of this. If that happened to us, it's kind of just like, well, anything can happen. So just using last season as motivation and also taking this time to really reflect on what we are able to do, I think will really be beneficial to the volleyball team.
For us, we started okay this season and then we had some injuries. Like I was out and then Kayla Wolf was out too. So getting everyone back and being healthy and then having all the newcomers come in next year for our season, we're going to have more people on our team, but I think that's going to push everyone in their positions just because there'll be more people out there. So I hope that from that, everyone will get better and get pushed and hopefully we'll have a pretty decent season next season.
Nate and Mav, I'm curious, Nate, you sort of alluded to it with just like obviously how the last season went. Just how much more anxious does it make you guys both to know, like, you know, last season it went the way it went. It is what it is at this point. But to get back out there and, like you said, Nate, like win football games again and get that feeling back. Like how anxious does it make you guys to want to get to that and, you know, not have to think about if it's going to happen or not, just because you do want to get back to just playing ball and actually improving that, you know, last season was a learning experience. It was what it was, but you guys are better.
I think across the board, our team is like really excited to, you know, like kind of prove who we are. Because last season, I feel like there was so many things that happened throughout the season that we didn't, that dealt or that had everything to do with why we didn't play well. And so I think that going into this season, that excitement that we have to, you know, just prove it to not everybody else but ourselves that we are capable of winning games, capable of being good in this conference, in the country, and stuff like that. I think that that is very noticeable throughout the team, and I think that that we'll be able to show that, especially when we get out and start practicing again. I think everybody's hungry for it, and we're ready to do it.
For me personally, I'm very anxious because I had 2 concussions last season and I only played like 6.5 games. So I've been missing football for a while now, and I was really excited for spring ball. And then the day before spring ball, it all got, you know, canceled. So for me personally, I'm very motivated to get back and show, not just me personally, but for us to show what we can do. I don't think last year was an accurate representation of who we are as a team. I think we, like you said, it was a learning experience. And I think a lot of guys are really motivated and ready to get back. And I think it's going to be a good year.
Lex, you talked about kind of the state of volleyball program. And you guys started conference playoff really, really well. And then you hit that spot where, though you guys were competing extremely well, you weren't getting the results that you guys were looking for or wanted, but you were able to make it to the MAC tournament first time in like 6 years. How does that kind of motivate you guys getting back into the fall, really with only losing Rich and Elia?
Yeah, so I think for us, in the beginning, we started out the season, I think I talked about before, we had a 3-0 sweep against Miami, which hadn't happened since, I think, 2010. And that was a real confidence booster for us, and I think we carried that on for a good deal of time. And then we kind of hit that rough point. And I think I don't want to say we got comfortable, but we didn't really have that communication aspect, have the talks of what we needed to do and what to do to continue forward with that. So I think that was kind of disappointing for us in a sense, because we knew we were capable of it and we kind of just leveled off. And we started off really confident this season because we kind of went in with a what do we have to lose kind of situation, like let's just go for it. So I think after we hit that little dip, we didn't have enough to bring us back out of it. And I think once we talked about at the end and once we ended up losing to Buffalo in the MAC tournament, we all kind of were like, okay, like it is what it is. We had improvements. We definitely were looking at it from a positive mindset rather than a negative mindset because, I mean, yes, we were disappointed with the little dip we had, but at the same time, we haven't had a winning record like that in forever. So we kind of looked at it as more in a positive mindset situation to where we should be proud of what we did. But, I mean, I know we've talked about it many times how we're ready to not have a dip like that, and we just are going to use that as motivation to where we want to do better in the next season. So.
Jesse, for you, one last thing. I was just going to ask, like, what's that transition like when you have a new coach come in who obviously has her own vision of how things are supposed to be or how she wants to build things, and obviously, you know, there's new players and trying to get everybody sort of assimilated, both the older players like yourself, someone who was a veteran, and then the younger players as well. Just what has that experience sort of been like? Getting used to obviously Megan and her coaching style and building as a team. I know you mentioned earlier having that extra year will probably help, but just what has that been like for you leading up to, you know, the start of your guys' season, at least that you had this year?
When I got in there, like when they first came in, they're really big on hitting, so we did a lot of hitting drills. I played outfield for the past 3 years, and I got moved into playing first base, so it was a big learning curve for me. I haven't played infield since my freshman year of high school. So that was a big adjustment. So at that point, I was getting help from my GA, my coaches, even like Lexi Petrov, who's pitcher, first baseman. She's a sophomore, so she was helping me too. So it was a learning curve for me, but we had everyone was basically in the same boat, freshman, sophomore, senior, on nothing's guaranteed because the coach doesn't really know that much about you anyway, so anyone could be in at any time. But we always had to gel together, work together, and figure out how to play games and go from there.
I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and again, have a great weekend. And you guys can all say it with me, but a lot of you are still muted. Have a great rest of your week, and as always, go Zips.
Go Zips.
Go Zips.
Go Zips.